Morning, everybody. We're going to wait just a couple more seconds for folks to join. Thank you for being here. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm California Attorney General Rob Bonta, and in particular, thank you for joining on short notice. I'm pleased to announce the major victory our team secured in our case against President Trump and Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth's unlawful deployment of 4,000 federalized National Guard and 700 Marines in Southern California. Our team argued, and the court has affirmed that Trump's disregard of the Posse Comitatus Act and unprecedented use of military troops for civilian law enforcement violated the law. With today's decision, Trump is barred from using the National Guard and Marines in California for law enforcement purposes. That means the military troops can't engage in arrests, searches and seizures, security patrols, crowd control, interrogation, or anything deemed as executing the law. The remaining troops must be limited to non-law enforcement activities. Bottom line, military troops cannot police our community. This decision validates that the power of the president is not boundless. Trump is not king. Trump's decision to deploy military troops to the streets of Los Angeles was nothing more than an act of political theater and public intimidation. Los Angeles has one of the largest police departments in the country. Their officers are hired, trained, and resourced for civilian law enforcement. The National Guard and Marines are not. LAPD is perfectly capable of calling in backup, which they did from nearby local law enforcement. We call that mutual aid. They didn't call the military. Governor Newsom didn't call in the military because the military was not needed. Instead, Trump pulled National Guards members away from very real, very vital roles fighting wildfires, tackling the fentanyl crisis, and more. A complete and total disrespect to their service and critical responsibilities. These service members were sent to create armed perimeters and blockades, apprehend and detain civilians, and participate in ICE raids. This isn't just our word against theirs. An ICE senior official in the region admitted the military was being used as a, quote, force multiplier, end quote. Department of Defense internal documents show that it sent troops despite knowing there was little to no threat to federal personnel or property. When the commanding general of the National Guard and Marines in Los Angeles resisted a request that he felt would likely violate the law, his own patriotism was questioned by a Department of Homeland Security official. Our military members are not pawns for the president to play with. They're patriots who've dedicated their careers to serving and protecting our country. Trump misused them, and in doing so, trampled over a basic foundation of our democracy, that our military is apolitical. The Posse Comitatus Act is in place to ensure our civil liberties and protect against military overreach. It's a bedrock of our democracy, intrinsically tied to the history of our nation. It dates back to before our country even was a country, and the British king used the military to police the colonies. Just as we pushed back then and won, we're pushing back now. The pattern of abuse we're seeing from this administration is deeply troubling. Its willingness to repeatedly break the law and meddle in local affairs and law enforcement is deeply disconcerting. Its stance that there should be very few guardrails on what federal troops can do on our streets is astonishing and unprecedented. Usurping local law enforcement and militarizing our cities erodes public trust and jeopardizes public safety. Trump has made it clear that Southern California was round one. We're seeing what he's doing now in Washington, D.C. We heard his threats to Oakland and Chicago and New York. I hope today's decision makes him think twice. But if it doesn't, you can be sure we won't stay silent. Justice Breyer's decision was clear. Sending military troops to conduct civilian law enforcement violates the Posse Comitatus Act, period, full stop. It's against the law. Trump's power is not limitless. If Trump repeats this play, so will we. We'll continue to take Trump and his administration to court each and every time he breaks the law and endangers our communities. Before I open it up to questions, I want to acknowledge the incredible team of public servants at California DOJ who made this victory possible. I'm proud to serve with every single one of them. Anya Binsaka, Nicholas Espiritu, Luke Friedman, Noel Garcia, Robin Goldfaden, Nicholas Green, Christina Gutierrez, Brendan Ham, Barbara Horn Petersdorf, Lorraine Lopez, Marissa Maloof, Kendall Micklethwaite, Michael Newman, Thomas Patterson, Jane Riley, Megan Richards, James Stanley, and Megan Strong. An incredible team delivering a critical result to California and the rest of the nation. They're the folks who work tirelessly to put together this lawsuit and make our arguments in court. And I and we wouldn't be here without them. So thank you. Our success today, of course, critically based on their important work. And again, with great gratitude and appreciation for my team, we're proud to announce this result today. And now I am happy to take your questions. Thanks for joining.
If you'd like to ask a question, you may do so by hitting the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen. You will then be moved into the queue. Please state your publication when you ask your question. You can also submit questions through the Q&A feature, also at the bottom of the screen. First question comes from Michael. You are now unmuted.
Good morning, Attorney General Rob Bonta. This is Michael Zinstein with Cal Matters. Last time Judge Breyer issued a ruling in favor of your team, there was an appeal, and the Ninth did a temporary stay and then a full and a preliminary injunction within, like, I don't know, an hour or two. So it's been a few hours since this ruling from Breyer. Have you gotten any indication that there will be an appeal to the Ninth? What are you hearing on the challenge to this? Because let's be real, there probably will be.
No doubt. We completely expect an appeal. That's what they do. They appeal and they keep appealing. They did this last time, and we are not naive. We are very clear-eyed about what is likely to happen. So I'm rather certain they will appeal. They haven't yet, but doesn't mean that they won't. Judge Breyer stayed his order until September 12th. That's a week from this Friday at noon, to allow the federal government to appeal to the Ninth Circuit if that's what they wish to do. So we'll see what they do, but we fully expect an appeal, and we are confident in our case. This was after a trial with testimony from military personnel from the federal government who was the only evidence in the case in terms of live testimony. We are using their own words. This isn't he said, she said. This is he said. They said. The federal government said it. And Judge Breyer, in our view, applied the Posse Comitatus Act exactly the way it's supposed to. And Trump has stated that he plans and has intentions to deploy the military throughout the nation, specifically targeting in a very partisan way blue cities and blue jurisdictions, specifically going after Democrats, transparently doing so, not trying to represent all of America. And saying that they are going to be those National Guards people, or that military will engage in tackling crime, the precise thing, the exact thing the Posse Comitatus Act prohibits. And this is, of course, a president who, when asked whether the Constitution of the United States affords due process to all people in the United States, had no idea, and didn't know what the Constitution, something he swore to uphold and defend, by the way, requires. So the law is not his friend. The facts are not his friend, but the law and the facts are our friend. We go to court when the law and the facts are on our side, and we block unlawful conduct from the Trump administration. And so we did that here. We believe we are on solid ground. Whatever the federal government decides to do, we believe that we will be able to defend this important order on appeal because the Trump administration has violated the Posse Comitatus Act, and there's no way around it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question comes from Eric. Eric, you are now unmuted.
Hey, good morning. Eric Leonard with NBC News in LA. The acting U.S. attorney for the Central District of California has posted a social media message that says the military will remain here and the judge's ruling is wrong. Assuming the legal appeal happens, what happens if the military continues, or federalized National Guard and or the military continues to engage in the same sort of thing that all of us saw over the last couple of months, despite the judge's decision today, if and when it takes effect a week from Friday?
Yeah, thank you. I don't think the U.S. Attorney for the Central District has any real role here except to voluntarily opine on a court order. And this is a lawsuit against the Trump administration, against Secretary Hegseth, against the Department of Defense, and we have prevailed. And it is, of course, disturbing when a federal official seeks to undermine a court order that is based on law, based on fact, just because they don't agree. And so it's classic Trump administration response to court orders. We hear Stephen Miller whining all the time about all the court orders that are getting in the way of the president in implementing his agenda. And I have the same advice now that I've given before. If you don't want to have court orders issued against you, stop breaking the law. It's simple. And so following a court order that is adverse to the Trump administration, and there have been many that we have secured because they have broken the law so brazenly and blatantly, consistently and frequently, it is the next step in the Trump administration's response, which is cue the criticism of judges, cue the criticism of courts, cue the criticism of court orders, start asking for the impeachment of judges, start calling them so-called judges, start questioning the authority of the judicial branch of the United States government established in the U.S. Constitution to interpret the law, which is their exact role. So this is what the Trump administration does. And so no surprise that those comments were made, completely expected. But this is a court order. We follow court orders in the United States of America. This order has teeth and force. And so it must be complied with. And we are not at a point where the order is not being complied with. It's just been issued, and it's clear about what is prohibited. It is consistent with the law. If the Trump administration disagrees with it, they can do what is an appropriate thing to do, appeal, and see if they get a decision that supports their position. Or maybe there's going to be a decision that affirms our position. That's what I believe will happen. But the appropriate remedy is not to chirp on the sidelines and criticize and undermine courts. It's to seek an appeal if that's what you want. Until then, unless and until then, this is the law. This is a court order. It governs, and the Trump administration may not violate this clear court order from Judge Breyer. We expect them to comply, and I believe they will.
Next question comes from Anita. Anita, you are now unmuted.
Good morning, Anita Chabria with the LA Times. Thanks for doing this. You touched on the fact that General Sherman had his patriotism questioned during the trial. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about that, why your team dug into that line of questioning and why you think it's important to get that on the record.
I think it's important, one, to show that there were some long-serving members of the federal government with authority here and knowledge of the governing laws, including the Posse Comitatus Act, who flagged the potential violation of the Posse Comitatus Act, who understood, recognized, and observed the guardrails put in place by the Posse Comitatus Act, and that there were some political figures that were trying to squash and tamp down on and silence and chill this type of common sense communication and speech around what is lawful and what is not. And we're trying to say, don't worry about what the law is. You're not being patriotic if you don't blow by the law and violate it and just bend the knee and exhibit complete fealty and loyalty to Trump. And that is wrong, that is unlawful, and that is dangerous. And it is the patriots who speak out about what the law permits and what it prohibits, and who work to stay in compliance with the law and do take actions that are in compliance and won't violate it, that are important. To silence them, to squash those common sense declarations about we shall not violate the law is very problematic, very dangerous, and I think, unfortunately, not uncommon in the Trump administration. But it is that perspective and spirit to do your job lawfully, only comply with lawful orders, only do lawful things, which is what the federal government should be doing. And those who counter that and seek to undermine that are very problematic. And those are the folks who we are taking to task and holding accountable in court. And that's why we're here with a court order holding that the actions of the Trump administration in LA were unlawful and violated the Posse Comitatus Act.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question comes from Nadia. You are now unmuted.
Hello, this is Nadia with Axios. So the order says that it doesn't prevent these troops from leaving the state, or still allows their use in ways that are consistent with federal law. So what will this mean for a city like San Francisco that Trump has already said he's considering sending troops to?
Yeah, so the court order was very clear about what military forces, the National Guard and the Marines here can do and well, what they can't do. And they cannot engage in many things specified, called out, enumerated by Judge Breyer here. They can't engage in arrests. They can't engage in apprehensions. They can't engage in searches and seizures and security patrols, traffic controls, crowd control, riot control, evidence collection, interrogation, other civilian law enforcement, domestic law enforcement activities. So it does beg the question, what can they do? And you are right. He did not order the withdrawal of the National Guard at this time. Stay tuned for potential action on that issue, but not for any discussion today. Our read of the court order is that the military can sit in, sit on, and quote unquote guard, quote unquote protect, quote unquote defend federal property, if that's how the federal administration wants to misuse, frankly, and deploy these patriots who can be doing many more important things. As we've mentioned, the National Guard can be tackling fentanyl, can be fighting wildfires instead of sitting at and in federal buildings, protecting them from no threats, from no targeting, from no attacks, just sitting there. If that's how the president wants to waste the time of these patriots and have them sit at federal buildings, in federal buildings, protecting against no threats, we believe that that is potentially compliant with the court's order. So for San Francisco, if there was a deployment of federal military to sit at the federal building and protect it from no threats, and they didn't violate any of the things that Judge Breyer has said that they cannot engage in: arrests, apprehensions, searches, seizures, crowd control, riot control, et cetera, that may comply with the Posse Comitatus Act, but it would be a complete misuse of the military, using them as political pawns to add no value and actually take them away from highly valuable roles, again, like tackling wildfires and fentanyl.
And
Thank
that was the last question.
Thanks for joining on short notice, everybody. Appreciate the opportunity to talk about this court order, and I'm sure we'll be spending more time with you soon. Thanks again.